Welcome to EoZTV. I'm Elder of Zion, and today we're going to be looking at a video report that came out recently, about 4 days ago, from Forensic Architecture that purports to be able to do some sort of a scientific examination of a car ramming that happened in June of 2020 at a checkpoint in the West Bank. And it tries to prove that it was that the Israeli police killed this car rammer for no good reason, and he was absolutely not responsible for driving into soldiers at a checkpoint. So we're going to look at this because it is an amazing piece of anti-Israel propaganda. It's amazing in its selective use of facts and even contradictory use of facts, all for one purpose: to try to make Israel look as evil as possible. And it's narrated by Angela Davis, who is arguably an anti-Semite and definitely a rabidly anti-Israel person. The introduction takes about 2 minutes, and it proves that there's nothing scientific about here because the entire introduction is nothing but propaganda. Let's look.
On June 23, 2020, Ahmad Erekat, a 26-year-old Palestinian, was shot by Israeli occupation forces after his car crashed into a booth at the container checkpoint in the occupied West Bank. According to his family, he was driving to run errands for his sister's wedding taking place on the same day.
Notice that everything she says is purely from the perspective of Palestinians. She's trying, they pretend to sound like they're being objective, but there is nothing about what the Israeli point of view is during this entire video.
Located on a central Palestinian road, the checkpoint separates the cities of Bethlehem and Ramallah. It is one of the 149 illegal military checkpoints that restricts Palestinian movement to serve Israel's
Neo-colonial is what she's about to say. I just wanted to stop it before the picture fades, because I have no idea if there really are still 149 checkpoints. It sounds like an old piece of information, but you can even look over here and look at Gaza. They show about 6 checkpoints in Gaza, in which there is actually only 2 checkpoints in Gaza that are used at all ever. One at Kerem Shalom, which is down here, or perhaps this one, and the other one in I'm sorry, can't think of the name at the moment. The brain. But at any rate, and this is showing an Egyptian one, as a matter of fact. This is Rafah. But it is, so if it's not even being accurate over here, I doubt highly that it's being accurate over here, or that these checkpoints are actually all being used. But of course, the way that Davis says it, these checkpoints are part of a huge illegal, and she calls them illegal. There's, again, no proof of that, nothing saying it's illegal checkpoints. And international law doesn't say that an occupier can't put in checkpoints, even if you consider the territory occupied. So this is, again, pure lies that are coming from the script of Forensic Architecture and the mouth of Angela Davis.
Colonial regime. Working in collaboration with the Palestinian human rights group Al-Haq, Forensic Architecture's Palestine unit was asked by Ahmad's family to examine evidence of the killing and establish the timeline of the incident. Ahmad's killing took place at a time of global Black-led protests against racist police brutality.
And what does that have to do with anything? She's going to try to pretend to explain it right now, but again, this is just a tendentious attempt to tie Israel with white supremacy.
It illustrates both the entangled struggles of Palestinian and Black liberation, as well as the disposability of Black and indigenous bodies in hyper-militarized settler colonies.
So she's trying to relate the riots and the demonstrations that happened over the summer for George Floyd with what happened here in Israel. They have absolutely nothing to do with each other, but you notice the last thing that she just said is that the hyper militarized settlement colonies, if she's putting if she thinks that the two of them, that Israel is comparable to America that way, that means America is also a militarized colony, which means that, according to her, all of America is occupied land as well. Now, some people do say that. I don't know if Angela Davis actually believes that, but it just gives you an idea of how absurdly extreme she is and how absurdly extreme the writers of this, and presumably she's reading a script from Forensic Architecture.
We analyzed the available images, videos, and testimonies, and built a 3D model of the checkpoint. However,
that's Forensic Architecture's big deal. They love making 3D models and saying like that proves something. You'll notice that we're only going to look at the first 2 out of the 4 parts of this video because I'm not an expert in the other 2 parts. But the two parts saying that where they claim that Ahmed Erekat's car was not actually, that he actually was an accident, that he wasn't actually trying to run into the soldiers, and that the soldiers killed him for absolutely no reason, which is what, again, the other claim that she makes. There's only one video of that attack. This whole thing is based on that one video. This whole 3D model adds extremely little, but it looks cool, and people look at it and they say, wow, somebody actually put some time in this. It must be that what they're saying is true also.
Fearing retribution from the Israeli authorities, many eyewitnesses were intimidated from speaking with us.
That is complete garbage. When have you ever seen a news report, ever, and in the past 70 years, a news report where Palestinians said, oh, we're not going to speak anonymously to a fellow Israel-hating organization because we're afraid that Israel's going to come after us? That is a complete, absolute, provable lie. So I don't know why they even had to say it, and they're saying, oh, they didn't have enough witnesses for the thing. I don't know what the reason is, but it just proves that there is no veracity whatsoever about this. I call complete bull about this. There is no possible way that some Palestinian witnesses would not speak to them anonymously, because they don't mention names at all. Of course not. There's no way, absolutely no way, and this just proves by itself that forensic architecture is just filled with liars.
We sought to establish the circumstances of the crash of Ahmad's car, the use of lethal force, the denial of medical aid that followed, and the degrading treatment of Ahmad's body. A day after the killing, the Army released a phone video of security camera footage of the incident.
Okay, this is it. This video is about 11 seconds long, and this is the only evidence there is for anything whatsoever. If you look at it yourself, without forensic architecture trying to change your mind about what it means, you can look at it right now, as carefully as you want, blow it up on the screen, and you will see that the car is coming to the checkpoint, it's accelerating, it makes a little bit of a swerve towards the curb in order to increase the angle in which it hits the checkpoint. So in order to be able to maximize the amount of damage. You'll see it. 11 seconds is all it takes.
It shows Ahmad's car veering into a booth and hitting a soldier who immediately gets up on her feet.
Okay, so listen to that. She tries to minimize what the car did, saying, oh, it hits a soldier that just immediately got up on her feet. Also, if you look at it, you see the soldier was hurled about 6 feet and banging into this other car. She would have been hurled further in the air from the impact. It is very lucky, and probably because of all of the stuff that the police have to wear for protection, that she was only lightly injured. But nevertheless, look how they try to minimize a deliberate car crash, and you can look at it. I'll try to rewind a tiny bit so you can see her fly, because it is literally you're seeing her flying through the air. Here it comes. She's over here. Or actually, I'm sorry, she's over here.
Car veering into a booth and hitting a soldier
So that's it. I'm sorry about the audio, but you see it. It goes from the right side to the left side, and then where she hits the car and falls down. So, but Angela Davis wants to make it look as as make that as minimal as possible. And later on, you're going to hear the same, a similar thing about the speed of the car. But we'll go on.
Who immediately gets up on her feet. The military claimed that it was an intentional attack, but produced no evidence that it was not an error or malfunction.
I think that the video pretty much proves that it wasn't an error or a malfunction. I mean, extraordinarily tiny possibility, but anybody, did any Palestinian look at the car afterwards and see if the brakes, didn't work or something like that? And even later on, they're going to even claim that they did put on the brakes, that the driver put on the brakes. So this is just complete garbage. It makes no sense whatsoever. There's only one explanation that makes sense, and forensic architecture is doing everything they can to divert you from even thinking of believing your own eyes.
From the perspective of this video, the car appears to speed into the booth. However, our model allows us to analyze other perspectives that cast doubt on the military's claims.
Doesn't prove them wrong, it casts doubt. And that's something you're going to hear over and over, because they can't disprove it. You see it with your eyes. So they're trying to now say, oh, the car really wasn't going that fast. It really didn't accelerate. It was accelerating, at a constant rate of speed.
It also allows us to precisely reconstruct the path of the car, its speed and acceleration. The vehicle veers to the left. Just before impact with the curb, it shifts its course.
Okay, just to point out that curb is not a Western style, 90-degree angle curb. That curb is actually, it's graduated, it's a slope. So the curb, he would have felt it. If it was by an accident, he would have felt it and naturally put on his brakes, but it would not slow him down at all. And even according to, if you looked, earlier on at the little speedometer that they showed on the lower right of the screen, it showed that hitting the curb did not slow down the car at all.
The car's speed did not exceed 15 kilometers per hour.
Okay, again, trying to make it sound like it's no big deal, 15 kilometers an hour. That might be true. It's possible. But if you look at what the car looked like afterwards, you can see that there was some very severe damage to the car from that little 15 kilometer an hour accident, which is about 10 miles an hour. So the bumper is completely smashed in. The entire front part of the car is smashed in, and there's that is a severe, and if that's hitting a person is generally going to cause severe injury to the person. So again, forensic architecture is doing everything they can to minimize it. Angela Davis is trying to do everything they can minimize it, but clearly the car was purposefully rammed into soldiers.
Its acceleration was constant and low throughout, implying that there was no sudden attempt to speed up.
Implying that there was no attempt. Again, they can't say anything definite, so it's implying, we think this could be, so trying to cast doubt on what everybody can see with their own eyes.
We measured the slope to be 3 degrees, which is sharp enough to contribute to the speed of the car.
That's one of the more hilarious things that they're saying. They're saying, oh, because it's a 3-degree slope, then that's what caused the car to accelerate. There are hundreds of cars that go through this checkpoint every day. They stop and they wait for their next turn, and then they're waved slowly to go by. Are you telling me that even if a car goes in neutral, there's no way it's going to accelerate as fast as this thing did? But she's saying, oh, it might contribute. No, the guy put his foot on the accelerator. You can see also over here the how fast the car was going. And again, it's going from 0. Keep that in mind. It is from a complete stop in the beginning of this video, and then it goes up to this 15 kilometers an hour in about 4 seconds. Again, not not what a Lamborghini could do if you're flooring it, but it's not a small acceleration.
We sent our analysis to forensic collision expert Dr. Jeremy J. Bauer, who confirmed that the acceleration of the vehicle was only 4.4% of its reported capacity after turning toward the booth. Thus, the driver did not rapidly accelerate into the checkpoint. Had the driver...
I cannot figure out what this means. If that, saying that the acceleration was only 4.4% of the vehicle's capacity, that sort of, it went from veering and into the, and then going into the checkpoint. Let's say it went from 0, in that time for what he's saying that, if it's only 4.4%, that means that it could have been going some, 20 times more faster than it did, which to me sounds like instead of 15 kilometers an hour, it would have been going 300 kilometers an hour, that 200 miles an hour. I don't know what he's trying to say. That it could have been, maybe he could have floored it more. I have no idea. But if you look at the video, the real acceleration happens right before he starts to do the veering. That's a total of about maybe 1.5 seconds. So in that 1.5 seconds, yeah, maybe he could have gone another 5 miles an hour faster, perhaps. I don't think he could have done that much more in 1.5 seconds.
Truly wanted to maximize the chance that he would surprise the guards and strike them with his vehicle. He could have accelerated to the maximum capacity of the vehicle.
And then what she doesn't read is reducing the time the soldiers had to react to the oncoming vehicle. Again, this was about a second that they had to react, a total of about a second and a half before the vehicle started veering a little bit. So it wouldn't have changed at all, the amount. The soldiers obviously only reacted after the crash, and you can see that on the video. So, it would have made no difference whatsoever if he would have, accelerated a little more. Yes, maybe, he could have. I can't tell you the answer to that, but looking at the video, it does not look like he was trying to brake, or he was trying to slow down, or he was trying to do anything to avoid this accident. It sure looks purposeful. And forensic architecture is not saying anything that shows otherwise.
The video also reveals other details that cast doubt on the Army's narrative.
Notice, always cast doubt, because they can't prove anything. With all the fancy computers and 3D models and stuff like that, nothing has been proven and nothing will be proven beyond what you can see in the video itself. So it's like all they're trying to do is cast doubt because they want to prove that Israel is evil, and they don't want to look at any evidence that shows otherwise.
Shortly before impact with the booth, the distance between the back wheel and the body of the car expands, which, according to Dr. Bauer, could possibly indicate that the car was slowing.
The very funny part about that is forensics architecture just spent all of its time looking frame by frame with the video and saying it wasn't slowing. It was accelerating consistently. Said it should have been accelerating faster, but it was accelerating very consistently from 0 to what they say is 15 kilometers an hour when it crashed. And now all of a sudden they're saying, maybe he put on the brakes, but which contradicts what forensics architecture. So now they're going with their expert and saying maybe they put on the brakes, but forensics architecture video evidence is showing clearly that that's not true. And again, your own eyes also show that it's clearly not true. So it's a very bizarre thing. And the next one is just as bizarre.
Before impact with the soldier, we also notice that the front wheel appears still for several moments. While inconclusive, given the quality of the video, it raises the possibility that shortly before impact, Ahmad may have been braking.
I've looked at the video a number of times. I do not see the front wheel locking at all. I don't see it going still at all. It was going forward, until it crashed. So I'm not sure if they're saying that, if he was still trying to accelerate past the, after it stopped, and that it would have seen the wheel go forward or skid a little more. I'm not sure what they're saying, but again, to think that this is evidence of him braking is completely insane.
Together, the car's constant acceleration at a fraction of its ability, the low speed of impact despite the sharp slope, the correction of the car's path after initially veering to the left, and the possibility that Ahmad braked before impact all raise enough doubts that this was an intentional attack.
It might raise doubts if you're looking for doubts. All of these things are just ridiculous conjectures when it comes down to it. It's the low speed of impact despite the sharp slope. Now they're saying that any car would have gone faster. Again, it's a checkpoint. People are going there all the time. And you're telling me all of a sudden now it's a problem that every other one of the hundreds of cars are having a real hard time in order to be able to go slowly through the checkpoint and stop right on time. This is just it's an insult to intelligence for people to look at this. However, Israel haters don't care about that sort of thing. They want to cast doubt. The entire point of this video is to cast doubt and to demonize Israel. And facts be damned.
However, the Army has not opened a formal investigation into the crash. It has not released the rest of the security footage, nor has it examined the car's black box, which could help answer these questions.
And again, we have video, we have witnesses, we have everything we need to see to show what really happened. So now they're saying, oh, the Army should have been, spending thousands of dollars more to investigate what was clearly an attempted vehicular homicide. Now let's go to the next part of the video.
The Army claimed Ahmad got out of the car and approached officers who responded by shooting. With this claim of self-defense, the Israeli Army, whose officers were armed and in protective gear, sought to justify its extrajudicial execution of.
Again, extrajudicial execution. There's no, they're not saying that alleged, they're not saying anything, they're not using any of the words that a reporter would use. They're just saying, by fact, this is an extrajudicial execution. And that is completely absurd, as we will see.
Of Ahmad. We conducted a frame-by-frame analysis of the security camera footage. We stabilized the camera and increased the contrast of the footage to enhance clarity and examine Ahmad's movements and positions. After the impact, Ahmad leaves the vehicle unarmed and moves away from the soldiers. Here, we see Ahmad raising his hands in the air. Ahmad is first shot when standing around 4 meters away from the nearest soldier. He then continues to move backwards as he falls to the ground.
So the point they're trying to make is that, first of all, the initial report that was probably third hand from Mickey Rosenfeld was not accurate, because he said that Ahmad started to charge the soldiers. And the other thing that she's saying, and that she's going to continue saying, is that the soldiers kept on firing to him even when he was clearly not a threat. The important thing to look at is the times.
An Israeli border police officer claimed that Ahmad left the car and began running toward the soldiers. Our analysis contradicts this claim, showing that Ahmad did not pose any immediate threat. According to the Israeli Army's open fire regulations, live fire may only be used in a last resort if there is life-threatening danger. Our analysis shows that this was not the case. The first shot is fired 1 second after Ahmad exits the car by this soldier standing behind the booth.
Okay, on the bottom part, you can see the timing. So it started at, and I guess I'll see if I can go backwards a little bit on this, but here's the crash is about 5.34 seconds. Okay, that's about the time that the car actually stopped. And then, as we go, I'm not sure if I can do this carefully enough. No, I can't. You're gonna hear some sound, so forgive me for a second. Hold on.
By this soldier standing behind the booth.
Okay, I didn't stop it fast enough, but the important thing is less than a second after the crash, less than 1 second after the crash, the car door opens. And we're going to talk about that after she finishes her garbage. But that is the critical fact to talk about. You'll see.
Smoke from each shot becomes visible when we make the footage black and white. The bullet appears to hit Ahmad in the abdomen or chest area. The second shot is fired 0.4 of a second later by the same soldier when Ahmad is in this position. The third shot is fired 0.3 of a second later. Its smoke appears here and aligns with the rifle of the soldier in the front, as do the fourth, fifth, and sixth shots that followed in fast succession. It took Israeli soldiers 2 seconds to fire 6 shots at Ahmad. We examined the position of Ahmad's body when each shot was fired.
All of this is hand waving. All of this is to try to avoid the actual facts. So they're throwing in all of these cool pictures of of every single one of his shots. Oh, it's awful, it's awful, it's awful. Obviously, when you're using an automatic gun, you can shoot many bullets in a short period of time. Here's the thing, and here's the part that they do not want you to see. If you've ever been in a car accident, ever in your life, or even a fender bender, what's the first thing you do? The first thing you do is you're stunned. You're like, whoa, what just happened? It takes like many seconds, 5, 10 seconds, whatever, before you realize, oh my God, we just got hit. Is everybody okay? Am I okay? What are we going to do? That's every single time. I've been in car accidents. I'm sure that you've been in fender benders in your life, hopefully not worse. So that is the natural reaction for any human being. If you're in an unexpected car accident, you are stunned for a while. Ahmad Erekat was not stunned. Within 1 second of the crash, he threw open the car door and faced the soldiers. It's true he didn't charge towards them. He didn't have a chance to, luckily, because they shot him first. But he ran out of the car and faced the soldiers. Soldiers have to make split-second decisions. Hey, this guy just tried to run us over, and now he's immediately jumping out of the car, facing us. So they make a big deal over saying, oh, the police originally said that he was running towards them, or that he did this or that, and Angela Davis is trying to say, look, he's unarmed. It's so clear he's unarmed. 1 second. The soldiers had 1 second to make a decision. Hey, this guy that just crashed into us just hurled one of our fellow officers, police, I'm sorry, not soldiers, but who hurled one of our fellow officers 6 feet off of her, off of the ground, and toward in the other direction. They don't know what's going on. They have to make a split-second decision. And there have been car ramming attacks before in Israel. There have been dozens of car ramming attacks attacking checkpoints as well as attacking civilians. This isn't a one-off. This isn't like, oh, let's give the benefit of the doubt type of thing. This is an attack. They're identifying it as an attack. They are pretty certain it's an attack. We are pretty certain it's an attack. So yes, what you do is shoot. You do not wait and you don't have a jury and you don't look at videotape and you don't look at frame by frame and say, oh, you know what, he's facing a little bit, he stepped backwards a tiny bit, so therefore he's not a threat. That is completely absurd in any real-time situation, and any implication that the Israeli soldier or the Israeli police had any choice or any, without being suicidal, that they had any choice in the matter besides shooting him to kill. You shoot in the abdomen, that's what you do. You shoot to the body, that's what you do. So to think that they had any choice whatsoever about this, even if there's a ridiculously small chance of possibility that Ahmad was, that there was an accident or that he didn't mean to do this, all of that goes away by the fact that he runs out of the car so quickly. There was no possible way that he would do that. The soldiers knew that. It's intuitive. Anybody that's been in an accident knows this. He was going to run after them. Whether he had a knife, I have no idea, but he was going to do something in order to maximize that. Again, whether maybe, and again, perhaps, as there were some reports that there was a video that that he made, whether it was a day before, whether it was a few months before, but he had personal problems, so this could have been a planned suicide as well as opposed to a planned attack. This could have been suicide by cop. That's unclear. I've seen differing translations of the video that they found with him, but nevertheless, but that would explain a number of other things. But nevertheless, there is no way that any soldier would not shoot under such circumstances, or any policeman would not shoot under such circumstances, with the knowledge that car ramming attacks are a big deal. The rest of everything that forensic architecture says is just garbage to try to get you away from that simple fact.
The first two shots are fired. Ahmad is raising his arms and moving backwards. The third shot is fired as he is falling. The last three shots were fired when Ahmad was already on the ground.
When he could have still had a bomb, when he still could have been, it's not like he's completely, and again, this is within seconds, within only a couple of seconds, all these decisions have to be made. But the Israeli police do have actual terms of engagement and what to do. And over here, they were 100% absolutely under threat of being, under danger. So that's it for the first two parts of the video, and it is, and again, I don't have enough information, and I'm not going to spend my time looking at the other two, because it's already so clear that forensics architecture is full of it. And the other, just another couple of points that I would like to make, and I will just quickly go this. One of them is what I mentioned before, is that there were videos of him talking, and it sounded from what people could tell, the best Arabic experts that were out there, from what they can tell, there was a series of 2 or 3 videos that were on his phone. He seemed to be complaining about being set up, being accused of being a collaborator with Israel. He was swearing that he wasn't, but he seemed depressed in the video. He's wearing the same shirt in this video that he was when he was killed. So again, that doesn't necessarily mean something. It doesn't necessarily mean it was done on the day of or the day before, but it's still important. The other piece of information that forensics architecture definitely doesn't want you to know is that we have the testimony of the soldier that was hit by the car. She said, here's what it is. I signaled for him to halt. The car started to slow down. And I moved in his direction. He saw that I took a step. He looked me in the eye and turned the steering wheel and rammed into me. And I flew to the other side of the median. She looked at him in the eye. He saw her, and he accelerated. He certainly didn't put on the brakes. So, this testimony, do you believe this testimony? Do you not believe this testimony? If you're not going to believe the Israel's testimony, you certainly shouldn't believe Palestinian testimony, because if you look at what PCHR, the Palestinian Center for Human Rights, wrote about it before the video came out, they used eyewitnesses. There were Palestinian eyewitnesses. There are people waiting in line to get through the checkpoint. It said, oh, they pulled him out of the vehicle and threw him on the ground. Did they? We have the video. Clearly it didn't happen. So Palestinian eyewitnesses are far less reliable than anything that the soldiers themselves would have said, in my opinion, and I think in anybody's opinion, since we see what happened. So you put it all together, and forensics architecture is nothing to do with science, nothing to do with objectivity as much as they pretend to be. The entire video from beginning to end is nothing but propaganda, lies, and incitement in order to get people to hate Israel, especially since they used Angela Davis and she refers to the black protests. They're trying specifically to get leftist Americans and Americans of color to hate Israel. That's what the point of this is, and that's what the point of forensics architecture is from their previous, the previous things they did. So already I've gone on pretty long, but for now, this is Elder of Zion, and have a good evening.